Hi everyone in English 1301, it's Dr. E and I'm here to provide you with your instructions for week 7. Welcome back. Hopefully we can kind of start moving into what feels like a more normal kind of week. I hope that all of you who were dealing with quite a bit last week are feeling a bit more stable. Please know that I'm still thinking of you all and hoping that you all are well, and that you are catching up with everything school related in addition to all the other things that you probably need to work on. So hang in there. What I want to do right now is just go to D2L and walk you through all of the information for this week. So I'll pull it up so you can kind of get a sense of where we're going. I did put a note here to ignore the inactivity email. A lot of you probably received that last week because you hadn't logged in for a certain amount of time, and that's just automatically generated by D2L. So ignore anything that you received last week or even up to, Sunday, but starting on Monday, pay attention, because if you receive those, it means that you need to kind of get in touch and make sure that you're on track. So those will start up again, but you'll only receive them if you haven't logged in for quite a few days, okay? So I'm gonna go to the content area where we usually start our week, and we're in week 7, okay? So I've put the readings for this week. We have Distinguishing Facts from Misinformation, which is from our course text. This is a really important reading just in terms of, we talked last time, or we read last time, about how to kind of read rhetorically, how to utilize reading strategies, and how to focus on what we're reading. And now we need to think about, how do we identify what is trustworthy and reliable information versus all that is out there? We are inundated with misinformation and false news, fake news, that kind of thing, because there are so many websites that look very professional, that look just like all the other kinds of news organizations or places where you go to get reliable information, but they are not offering factual details, right? So this is going to kind of help us be a little bit more critical about what we read. And again, in this digital age, that is just so important because we have so many different places we can go to find information, but we want to make sure that what we find is actually, like I said, reliable. So distinguishing facts from misinformation. And then we have annotating, summarizing, and responding. Now, this becomes important because we're going to actually work to annotate Choi's article. So read that chapter before getting into Choi's, because it really gives you a sense of, what we need to focus on when we're thinking about annotating and summarizing, which there's a lot of crossover in the terminology there, and how, in terms of academic work, we need to break down ideas, right? We read, this article or this chapter. How do we then break it down and summarize those ideas and make sure we're really catching on to what the author wants us to focus on, okay? So focusing on the thesis statement, working to identify that in topic sentences, that's just a good way to start. Okay, then we're going to read Amy Choi's article, What Americans Can Learn from Other Food Cultures, right? And that is posted in the additional readings area, right? So if you go to syllabus schedule readings, I'll also put a link for it here, in this week's area so that you can just find it very easily. Choi's article is really interesting, and it's really moving us into our discussion about food and food cultures. So she works to kind of just give us as her audience, a sense of, what are these different elements of food culture that are important, or things that we maybe don't think about on a daily basis, but maybe we should think about a little bit more. And what I want you to note about the way that she writes her text is that she is doing something very intentional in the way that she's relaying that information. So she has those subtopics. And so that's an important thing to kind of pay attention to when you have a chapter or an article or any piece of information where the author has intentionally chosen to format it in a certain way. Those subtopics give us an idea of what her main ideas are. So it may help to then summarize or annotate her work, okay? Just throwing that out there, hint, hint, utilize those subtopics when you're thinking about summarizing and annotating. Okay, so Choi's article, which I'll pull up here, it's not very long, but it's great. It has some images we want to pay attention to when we're thinking about reading rhetorically. And what I also want you to notice when you go through her article is that she is not just relying on her own ideas, okay? She is a person who is utilizing research to support her ideas, and that means she's bringing in quotes from various experts. This is at the core of what we need to think about doing in academic writing, is we're not just talking about some a historical event or some idea or anything we're writing a paper on for any class, we're not just sharing our own ideas, we are actually supporting them with evidence, right? And that evidence comes by way of utilizing quotes and research to support our ideas. So what Choi does in her article is something that we want to pay attention to and think about how we would do ourselves, right? So in future writing, like in this week's post, I ask you, and I've asked you before, to use quotes to support your idea. And that is so that we're not just relying on our own opinions and our own ideas. We're bringing in that support and that evidence, right? Which allows our audience, whoever's reading our work, to understand that we've done the work and we know what we're talking about because we're bringing in various voices to help support our own ideas. Okay, so notice how Choi does that. That's pretty important. Okay, so take some time to read through her article, and once you do that, you'll be asked by Sunday to complete the annotation exercise. Okay, so that's right here. So what you need to do for her work, and I talked about this in the supplemental video, so make sure you go back and take a look at that. You'll read through the annotation exercise instructions, and it tells you all the 3 parts that you need, okay, and what to do and how to create your citation. And then you also have a template, right? So you're hopefully pretty used to these by now. It's just easy for me to kind of create a template so that you don't have to go through the many steps of setting up that MLA format. So download this to your device or computer and then put your name here, double click up here. Oh, my computer. Double click up here so that you can then put your last name in and then double click outside of that to get back to normal. You'll want to put the citation here, and that's for Choi's article. So again, on the instructions, it tells you how to set up that citation. That's definitely a part of academic writing, is showing your evidence, right? And showing where you got your evidence. You'll put a summary paragraph here, okay? And then you'll put your second paragraph when you're bringing in your own ideas here. I want you to note that it says always refer back to the author, in terms of what you're writing. So what I mean by this is a lot of times when I ask students to write summaries, and even when I originally started writing summaries or annotations, it's really easy to get into the language of, well, the article states this, or the book chapter says that. Our books aren't talking to us and the articles aren't speaking to us, right? We want to give credit to the authors who put the effort into this, whose ideas we are using and summarizing. So in that first paragraph, I want you to continuously refer back to Choi. Choi's thesis is this. Her main idea is this. Choi, you can use those pronouns and it won't be repetitive if you repeat Choi's name, right? Because you're making absolutely sure that you're in no way confusing your own ideas with her ideas. You are only sharing her ideas, okay? And then you get into that second paragraph, and that's where you can use that first person that McKinney Madalena talks about. You can say, I related to this article because, that kind of thing. All right, I want to stop here for a second and use the word of the week that will be mentioned in your participation quiz. And so that will be, looking around, picture. Okay, so remember that and come back to it in your participation quiz. Picture, like picture, there's a picture of Frida Kahlo there. Okay, well, I guess it's more of a painting, but you catch my drift. And I also talk about how to do the word count in the supplemental video, okay? So on Thursday, our paper topic post is due, and then the annotation exercise uploaded to D2L as a PDF, a .doc or a .docx document. And remember, if you have any questions about how to save, go to the D2L help area. There are screenshots and information about how to save a document, in whatever format that you might need. So take a look there, and you can always Google that stuff as well, right? So watch the supplemental video. We're working on paper topic posts a couple of times now. So we're starting this week with paper topic posts. And I don't want you to think of that any differently than just our weekly writing discussion post. But the paper topic posts are those that we can later, when we're working on our portfolio down the line, we can go back and revise these entries. These are specific posts that are kind of dealing with and having us engage with the ideas of food and food culture, okay? I just want you to note that just because it looks a little different on the schedule, right? It says paper topic post. I don't want you to be thrown by seeing that. All it means is that later down the road, we can come back and revise them. I'll let you know everything about the portfolio, when the time is right. I don't want to overload you with information now, so just something to keep in mind. So in a single paragraph, I want you to really think about what Choi's main idea is. Okay, and I put a hint here. And this is some of the work that you will end up doing in that annotation exercise, but I want you to do those separately. Those are not the same. Just in a brief paragraph, summarize her ideas, restating her thesis. And I put here, much like the summary you'll create requires that you take on the role of reporter, share facts, not opinions. In 3 paragraphs, I want you to choose 3 of her subtopics, right? And then kind of relate to those, right? Identify how you relate to or connect to those ideas. So how do you relate to, food as humanity? This will make sense once you read her work. These paragraphs really need to show that you understand Choi's work. So make sure you understand those different subtopics. Don't misuse, don't talk about an experience that you've had and say, oh, that's food as humanity. When in reality, no, according to Choi, that would actually be food as identity, right? So just make sure that you're double checking that. And I put here, because you need to use quotes to support your ideas. Note that Choi uses a lot of quotes. I talk about this in, I believe, the supplemental video. She uses so much information to support her ideas. No, it was this video, I'm remembering now. So make sure you're not confusing her ideas with the words and quotes that she is pulling in to support her ideas. So those cues are going to be quotation marks and her mentioning the other speakers or authors, okay? Your response is due by Thursday, right, as usual. You don't need to respond to anybody else's work this week just because we have that annotation exercise that is due. And I also want you to know that now is the time to start your new reading journal document, right? You submitted those. I will work to grade them. It will take me quite some time, so just be patient. But now is the time to start your new document with the 3 readings from this week and moving forward until it is due again. Okay, so just keep that in mind. You do have the week 7 quiz, right? And then the annotation exercise is here. And when you go to that section of the assignments area, once it opens, right, it says it has, the different, these instructions that I've noted, right? It has the annotation exercise instructions and then the template that you can use. And then once you have saved it to your computer or device, you have to click upload and then go and find it, right? So remember that in order to upload documents from D2L, you cannot upload directly from OneDrive or Google Docs or anything like that. You actually have to physically download it to your device, just save it on the desktop so that you can then go in and find it and upload it from there. Okay, so it's just some things to consider. Okay, let me get out of here. So that, folks, is essentially what we're focusing on in week 7. If you do have any questions or concerns, you can always let me know. Or as usual, you can post in the Q&A discussion area because, again, if you have that question, other people will. And feel free, if you see somebody's question, to answer that. If I see an answer that may need a little bit of tweaking, I'll go in and correct it. But it's really nice that y'all are helping one another, and I appreciate that. Take care, everybody. Have a great week. We're hitting the ground running with this stuff, but hopefully last week you got to a point where you're feeling stable and can kind of move forward now. All right, take care.